Okay, are we live? It says we are, but let me check on YouTube real quick. We are live. Okay. Well, I've been gone for a while. I was moving, and as you can see, the set's different. I'll get the bookshelf set up with books at some point, and the American flag hung back up. I didn't think you'd be able to see my bed in this setup, but it looks like you can. It's whatever. Now that I moved in, I should start streaming much more consistently again. I don't think I streamed for like a month and a half. But yeah, I saw we're up to 1,000 subscribers after the last Scott Ritter interview. That's really cool. Thanks to him for coming on. I figured we start today talking about the big news, and that is obviously Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson are all part of Russia now. Some big statements made by Putin. Let me try to share my screen. I'm using StreamYard for the first time, so I have to test it out. I'm not 100% sure how it all works. Let's share the screen here. Share system audio. Share the Telegram window. Okay. Okay, that's very easy, actually. It looks like it's working. Okay, let's go over some of these statements, because Putin said a lot today, and like normal, it means quite a bit, and we should take it serious. Obviously, he started off by just saying we will defend our land with all available forces and means, which is what any respecting country would do. Obviously, the United States would do the exact same thing, so can't blame them there. But let's keep scrolling, because some big statements were made. Putin says, this is all from ASB Military News and Telegram, by the way, follow them, they're great. Putin says Russia will never live by the rules or values of the West. He stressed that Russia will protect itself from Western values and interference. I believe he also called Western values literally satanic in some sense, which is very interesting. He said that the Anglo-Saxons destroyed the Nordstream pipelines. I'm going to talk about that next, but I figured I'd start with the new regions of Russia, since that's the most pressing news of the day. You cannot feed people with the money you print. It will not warm your homes, right? He's talking specifically to Europe about that, right? If Europe wants to warm their homes this winter, they need Russian gas. He talked about the pervert values of the West. We'll skip that. It will never be the way it used to be for the West. The collapse of Western hegemony is irreversible. We're seeing that every day, right? Every day, Western hegemony is collapsing more and more. American influence over the world is collapsing. Today, the UN General Assembly, or not General Assembly, the UN Security Council, I believe, they brought a motion to condemn Russia for annexing these parts of Ukraine, and Russia vetoed it, because Russia is one of the countries that has veto power. But India, China, Brazil, and another country all abstained. Right, so right there, just India and China, that's what, 2.6 billion people. You add in Brazil, I'm not sure the population of Brazil, but it's about 3 billion people altogether that effectively voted against condemning Russia for annexing these regions of Ukraine. So as you can see, the international community is not behind the United States. The United States will say the international community is behind them, but that's because to the United States, the international community is, them, the UK, the EU, and Japan. Right, and that makes up things like 800 million people, 900 million people. We could just say a billion if you want. It's not that much. It's more like 800 million. So what's really the international community, right? The 800 million that the U.S. claims, or the close to 3 billion that supports Russia in this, right? Putin went on to say the battlefield to which fate and history have called us upon is the battlefield of our people. For great historical Russia, the truth is with us. Let's not forget that these regions of Ukraine that are now a part of Russia again were a part of Russia just not too long ago. I know Crimea specifically was given to Ukraine from Russia in the 1950s. So that was not long ago at all, right? Just 70 years ago. I'm not sure about the other regions, but these were all regions of Russia not too long ago. These people are Russian, they speak Russian, and they just voted to join with Russia, right? Now you could say that the referendums were fake or whatever, but why would these people not vote in favor of joining Russia? They've been getting terrorized by people like the Azov Battalion for the better part of 8 years. Of course, they don't want to be a part of Ukraine. And I believe only 70% of the Kherson region voted, right? So 30% of that region's population didn't vote. That to me sounds like they weren't in favor, right? If I wasn't in favor, I probably wouldn't have gone to vote either, because obviously the people that were in favor is the majority. They were going to win the election. So 30% of that region didn't vote. So yeah, there are people against it, right? And the people of Eastern Ukraine, the people of Donetsk and Lugansk, they're not a monolith. Donetsk and Lugansk are different. They're I would be shocked to find many people there that would be against joining Russia, just due to them being their own country effectively for the better part of 8 years. And most of that Ukrainian, Azov battalion, a lot of that Ukrainian battalion was directed towards them. Obviously, Mariupol got the brunt of it as well. Mariupol was also one of these regions that, like Donetsk and Lugansk, declared independence from Ukraine. And then the Azov battalion went in and then pretty much reconquered them, right? That's actually where the Azov battalion gets their name, because Mariupol is on the Sea of Azov, right? So that's where the name comes from, literally. I continue here. Some funny jokes here from ASB Military News. Very young Putin in this picture. That looks like early 2000s Putin, like when he first took over, or was first elected, whatever. Took over might be disingenuous to say. Russian political analyst Belakovsky just made a huge claim. He says Putin actually announced a tactical nuclear strike on Ukraine in order to force surrender. Why would Ukraine surrender to that? They're already getting demolished militarily. It's. I mean, they've just literally been throwing men into a meat grinder. Why would that make them surrender? It's only the United States that talks like this. That talks about other countries using nuclear weapons for such stupid reasons, right? They say that Russia is going to use nuclear weapons to make Ukraine surrender. Why would they do that? Only the United States has such a cavalier mindset towards nuclear weapons, and I think the point is here. Quoting Putin, the United States is the only country in the world to have used nuclear weapons twice. They set a precedent. That's true. I don't know if Putin actually said that. I didn't listen to the speech, unfortunately. But the United States is the only country that has ever used them, and I think that's why we have so many Americans have this, especially American leadership has this cavalier mindset towards nuclear weapons, like they can just be used to fight a war. No. You use a nuclear weapon, and that triggers a full nuclear release from the adversary nation, right? If the United States uses a nuclear weapon, even if it's a tactical nuclear weapon, it will trigger a full Russian nuclear release or a full Chinese nuclear release. There is no limited nuclear warfare. That mindset has to be abandoned. There is no limited form of warfare between nuclear powers. Nuclear powers don't get to go to war, right? Nuclear powers go to war, everyone dies. That's what will happen. ASB Military News, they're very on top of it. A lot of their predictions are typically come true. They say our bet is a huge strike on Ukraine's civilian infrastructure. We mean a debilitating strike, huge amount of missiles, big doubt nukes will be used. Yeah, that seems accurate. I don't think Russia will use nuclear weapons in Ukraine, but I do think that they're going to. Well, we know that they're going to ramp up. I don't just think, we know, right? They've declared war. They say we're fighting NATO, we're fighting the West, and that's what they're going to do, right? They're just going to do it in Ukraine. What does Putin say here? I guess we could listen to him. I'm not sure if it picked that up on the stream, but it was in Russian anyways. I don't think any of us would have understood it. But he says the Anglo-Saxons had a few sanctions. They switched to sabotage. It's unbelievable. But the fact is that by organizing explosions on the Nordstream international gas pipelines that run along the bottom of the Baltic Sea, they actually began to destroy the pan-European energy infrastructure. It's interesting. Here's a goofy picture of Zelensky when he was still a comedian. He still is a comedian. I think it's funny he never wears a suit. I saw somebody make that joke earlier. They're very correct. Why does he never wear a suit? I stole the joke. I don't know who from, but I put it on my Telegram earlier. Maybe if Zelensky wore a suit, then Ukraine could be in NATO. I don't know why he doesn't wear suits. I've seen him wear suits. I've watched a couple episodes of the stupid show he was in. It's on Netflix, and he wears a suit in that. So for whatever reason, the war started, and he stopped wearing the suit. Or I guess Russia entered the war. The war started in 2014, but doesn't wear a suit. It's weird. It's weird. New population of Russia. That's very interesting, right? Ukraine is now the third largest country in Europe after Russia. France has moved up, right? France has moved up ahead of Ukraine. Ukraine's moved down in terms of land area. That's an interesting little fun fact. NATO Secretary General. Oh yeah, the NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg and the UN Secretary General gave a they called it an unprecedented statement at the UN. I don't know what was so unprecedented about it. They just denied Ukraine getting into NATO. That might be most of all that ASP military posted of Putin's statements here. The Biden said the USA will provide weapons to Ukraine so that it returns all of its territories. So not understanding what Putin is saying or not taking him serious, at least. That's not a surprise to Biden, though. Biden's an idiot. Oh, there are a few more things we will show here, or I'll show here on the ASB, and then we'll switch over to my Telegram. I have a few things to show. NATO Secretary General says the doors to NATO remain open. We have demonstrated this in recent years, except for Ukraine, which is good, right? NATO's interesting because all member countries have to approve of a new member, right? So all 30, if this is 30 allies, so I guess 30 countries are in NATO. All 30 countries have to vote in favor of a new country joining NATO. Makes it pretty hard to join, actually. U.S. takes Russian statements on nuclear weapons very seriously, says Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State. At the same time, the United States does not see any actions on the part of Russia that would indicate preparations for the use of nuclear weapons. It does seem that they're taking what Putin says a bit serious, at least privately, behind closed doors. I think they are. In the public, they like to posture, right? They're politicians. They like to posture, and they have to seem strong, make it seem like they're not going to back down. We're not afraid of nuclear war. Why should we be afraid of nuclear war? You should be afraid of nuclear war because it happens, as 8 billion people die, right? That's why you should be afraid of nuclear war. You don't have to pretend to not be afraid of nuclear war. It's okay. Let's normalize being afraid of nuclear war. NATO says they're not a party to the conflict. Curious, right? If you're supplying weapons, and how are you not a party to the conflict? Like, you're just outright lying. Like, just lean into it. You want to fight Russia. This is what you want to just lean into it. Say, yeah, we're a party to the conflict and we're supplying Ukraine with weapons. Russia already views you. Putin has been saying for weeks now that they are not only a party to the conflict, but Russia views the conflict in Ukraine as a war against NATO. It just so happens to be getting fought in Ukraine, and it's mostly Ukrainians that are doing the fighting against Russia. Head of the Zaporizhzhia region, one federal district will be. Oh, yeah, this is actually interesting. One federal district will be created from the new regions of Russia. So the 4 regions of Ukraine: Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson that joined today, they'll all essentially become one federal district. I don't know exactly how Russia's system works, but I assume a federal district is similar to an oblast, which is similar to a state. So that makes sense. This talks about how the statement from Stoltenberg wasn't very unprecedented at all. He just said no to Ukraine. This is an interesting video. It's fighter jet being shot down. We've been seeing, I posted one of those in my Telegram yesterday. The White House says that now is not the time for the process of Ukraine's admission to NATO. Quote, it should be taken up at a different time, unquote, right? Because why is that? Why should it be taken up at a different time? Because if Ukraine joins now, Ukraine is at war with Russia. So what would Ukraine immediately do? They would go to activate, I believe it's Article 5 of the NATO Charter. I could be wrong about the number, but whichever article of the NATO, says that all member countries must defend a member country that's at war. That's why they can't join. Because if Ukraine joins, then the other NATO countries could be obligated to go fight Russia, and then everybody dies. Very interesting video here. Hundreds of Russian troops about to land in Ukraine, right? Not full mobilization. Partial mobilization is taking place, right? Putin told us that. Partial mobilization, a lot more troops, at least 300,000. It'll probably be more in the future, depending on what they want to do. So that's everything from ASB. Let's move over now to my Telegram. You can follow me at. I forgot to put it in the description. Damn. Well, it's Bradley Wass, so you can find me on here. You can also find me on Twitter. I forgot to put both of those in the description. Here's the video from yesterday of the Ukrainian Su-24 crashing. It was hit by at least one surface-to-air missile. I think if I go full screen, it doesn't share for whatever reason. I have to figure that out on StreamYard. But I see another missile miss right there, actually, before it hits the ground. Interesting, though. Putin said the enemy, the people who are fighting against us, is the West, which has always dreamt of breaking up Russia, right? Putin's making it very, 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 very clear who Russia views as their enemy, right? It's not necessarily just Ukraine. It's the West. It is NATO. It's the United States. It's London, right? They view them as who they're fighting against. It just so happens that the fighting is taking place in Ukraine, and Ukrainians are being used for the fighting. Angela Merkel, right? She was the chancellor of Germany not too long ago. She says that Putin's statements should be taken very serious, right? That's good to see. Obviously, she's not in power anymore, but hopefully some Germans heed her words. You cannot feed people with the money you print. It will not warm your homes. That's kind of a bar from Putin, right? I wanted to show this video with the audio, but I'm not sure how to do that with StreamYard, because I think, please forgive me for not knowing here, this is a sort of a test stream. I'm pretty sure if I click on it, it doesn't show the full screen on the, right? Yeah, it doesn't show the full screen. So let's figure this out. Bear with me. I'm sorry. This is the first time I've used the streaming software, so I kind of have to figure out how to share that. Video file I can share. Interesting. Well, I really wanted to show this video. Let's see if I stop sharing. Let's see if I full screen this. I'll pause it. Let's go back here. Start screen share again. Share the screen. Okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. So I can share Telegram. Okay. Let me click on it. How does it share it? Interesting. Can I unmute it from here? No, it goes full screen. Well, damn. I guess I am having issues, but I don't think that they can help me at the issue I'm having. Strange. Well, wonder how I could share this video. I have an idea. Bear with me. Bear with me. Is there a way I can save this video on my computer? It appears there is. Let's give it as Maloney talking. Save. Okay. I think it's saved. I will stop sharing the screen again. We will go to share. We will go to video file. And we will click on Maloney.
Emmanuel Macron. Emmanuel Macron ci ha definiti vomitevoli.
Okay. It's sharing. Let's watch this and then I'll talk about it. I think it's very, I have a few things to say. Let's just watch the video.
Emmanuel Macron. Emmanuel Macron ci ha definiti vomitevoli, cynici, irresponsabili. E qui la stampa italiana a dire, hai visto che ha detto Macron, che siamo irresponsabili. Vergogna. Irresponsabile Emmanuel Macron sono quelli che hanno bombardato la Libia perché gli dava fastidio che l'Italia avesse un rapporto privilegiato in campo energetico con Gheddafi, esponendoci al caos migrazione nel quale ci troviamo. Cinici Emmanuel Macron sono i francesi che mandano la gendarmerie a rispedire indietro qualunque immigrato tenti di passare il confine a Ventimiglia. Ma soprattutto perché le cose vanno raccontate come si deve, vomitevole è chi... Buono, che lo vuoi tu? Ci hai mai tolto il pathos? Vomitevole è chi, come la Francia, continua a sfruttare l'Africa stampando moneta per 14 nazioni africane sulle quali applica il signoraggio, facendo lavorare bambini nelle miniere, estraendo materie prime come accade in Niger, dove la Francia estrae il 30% dell'uranio che gli serve a far camminare le centrali nucleari e il 90% dei nigerini vive senza elettricità. Non ci venire a fare lezioni, Macron, perché l'Africa scappa da voi e la soluzione non è spostare gli africani in Europa, è liberare l'Africa da certi europei. Non accettiamo lezioni. Chiaro?
So that's just the beginning of that, right? That is just the beginning of that type of sentiment growing in Europe. I mean, that type of sentiment is with the European people already, and we're just starting to see leaders like Meloni come about that articulate it, right? She's accurately placing blame for Italy's grievances. In this case, she was talking about immigration, and also right in the beginning, she talks about how Italy was trying to secure energy from Libya, right, from Gaddafi, and then what does NATO do? They go and they destroy Libya. They literally turn Libya Libya was the most prosperous nation in Africa, had the highest living standards. Also, the Arab world, right? Libya is an Arab country, and they had some of the highest living standards of the Arab world, right? You always hear liberals in the United States talk about women's rights in Arab countries, and Libya had the best women's rights. Women had education, women could own property in Libya. It obviously wasn't the case in Saudi Arabia. And Italy, like other countries, was trying to secure gas, was trying to secure energy for Libya. NATO went and destroyed Libya, and Meloni has now come to power, and she's accurately describing this. She's actually accurately describing what the Italian people have known for years, and that's that their government was corrupt. The EU is absurd, right? The EU is a puppet that the US controls, and it doesn't work in the benefit of Europeans, right? And she's perfectly described this, and they're terrified of her, man. Wall Street, London, these people hate Meloni. They hate people that are coming to power like her. She's very similar to Trump. People say, I haven't followed her too closely. I mean, I followed her somewhat, and yeah, she's similar to Trump. She talks about immigration, and she has sort of an Italy first mindset, which is normal. Should the leader of every country take their people's grievances seriously and put their people first? I mean, that makes sense. The mainstream media calls her Mussolini. I guess because she's Italian, she speaks Italian and she yells. That makes her Mussolini, right? I'm sure there's a lot of Italians out there that yell. Are they all Mussolini? No, she's not Mussolini. She's not having people beat to death in the streets by goon squads. No, right? She got elected, and she's now talking about creating Italy's own currency, reinstituting relations with Russia, buying gas from Russia, and things that will keep Italy alive, right? Italy, like most of the EU, is going to die this winter if they don't have gas. I'm being serious, right? I'm not speaking figuratively. People will die. There will be blackouts, right? Think about people in hospitals. How many people are in hospitals? If you're on life support, that requires electricity. What if there is no electricity? You may say, well, the hospitals have some form of backup power. Okay, well, how long can that last? Right, backup power is backup power. It's not intended to be the primary form of power for a long amount of time, right? So what happens when the backup power fails, right? Are you still in a blackout? Has the power come back on? If so, where'd that gas come from? Where are you getting that gas? And the one thing Italy has going for it, I guess, is that unlike most other European countries, a lot of it might say warm. It's on the Mediterranean Sea, it's a peninsula, at least southern Italy. Obviously, the northern regions are more mountainous and cold. But Italy might get less of the brunt of the winter. But Europe is in a good. They're fucked, right? I was gonna try not to say the word, but they're fucked. Especially the regions that are going to get colder. The type of leader we're seeing in Maloney, we will see that in France. We will see that in Germany. We will see that in Spain. We will see that in Portugal. We will see all of that within the next year, maybe before this year is over, even, right? How many meals is it? How many meals would you miss? How many meals would it take for you to get in the streets, right? You miss 5 meals, are you in the streets? 3 meals, are you in the streets? Right? How cold does your house have to get before you're in the streets? Am I muted? I hope I wasn't muted throughout this time. But anyways, how many meals would it take for you to get in the streets, right? Probably not many for me. And we're going to see that in Europe this winter, right? People are going to be cold. People are going to be hungry. And leaders like Maloney are going to continue to come to power and, hopefully try to lead Europe out of it. We'll see them be demonized by the mainstream media, right? The corporate controlled media, right? They'll call them Mussolini. They'll call them Nazis, right? All this nonsense. Meanwhile, they're the ones supporting Nazis in Ukraine. It's outrageous, right? I cover this a lot on Telegram. Once again, follow me on Telegram. You can also follow Good History. I'm a contributor over there, and I cover a lot of the protests going on. And Europe is in a bad spot. They need Russian gas. If you're European and you don't like Russia, fine. If you're European and you don't like Russian leadership, fine. You don't have to. But if you want to survive, if you want your country to survive, you need that Russian gas, right? 40% of the EU's energy, where does it come from? It comes from Russia, right? Okay. So the EU's massive. They use a lot of electricity. So let's cut off 40%. Let's just do a thought experiment, okay? So 40%. We're going to get rid of 40% of our energy. Boom. Done. We're no longer buying this 40% of our energy. Now we have to find a way to replace that. Okay, how do we replace that? Okay, well, we could get it from Africa. We could get it from the United States. Okay, how is it? Is it going to be more expensive? Of course, it's farther away. It's going to take more to get there. It'll be massively more expensive. Okay, is there even enough transportation volume in the world to move that much gas? No, there's not. There are not enough ships. There's not enough planes. There's not enough pipeline capacity. There's not enough transportation volume in the world to replace 40% of Europe's energy demands. Right. The only way that could have been achieved, the only way that 40% of the only way that 40% of Europe's energy could be replaced is through the Nordstream pipelines. And what happened to the Nordstream pipelines, right? What happened? They blew up. That's funny. That they would just blow up. Do pipelines typically do that? Do pipelines typically just blow up out of nowhere? Not that I know of, right? I've never heard of anyone talk about pipelines that just randomly blow up. No, someone blew those pipelines up. Now, who blew the pipelines up? Okay, there's 3 countries that realistically could have blown those pipelines up, right? 3 countries that operate submarines and things that could have planted explosives onto the pipeline and blown them up. Those 3 countries are the United States, Russia, and China. Okay, so those are the 3 countries that are capable of carrying out this act of terrorism. Okay, now let's go over who would have the reason to. Russia spent billions of dollars building Nord Stream, both Nord Stream pipelines, billions of dollars and a huge amount of time. Russia's biggest piece of leverage over Europe is energy, right? Biggest piece of leverage is energy. 40% of Russia's energy comes from Europe. That's massive. It's almost half, obviously, right? So that's the biggest piece of leverage. If you don't do what we do, Europe, we will cut off your energy. Now, Russia never said that. Russia has never said that, but theoretically they could. And I've heard this from mainstream media in the United States for years now, right? Russia uses energy as a weapon. Russia weaponizes energy. Okay, well, they've never done that, but theoretically, sure, they could. Theoretically, they could say, we're going to cut off this energy, Europe. Now, that's their biggest piece of leverage. So would Russia destroy something that they spent billions of dollars building and is their biggest piece of leverage over Europe? I don't think so. I don't see why Russia would do that. That makes no sense. If I'm on a jury and you're trying to convict Russia if you're trying to convict Russia, I'm on the jury, you're trying to convict them for blowing up the Nord Stream pipelines, I don't buy it. Why would they do that? They have no reason to. Now China, right? China's capable of doing it. China operates the machinery and things necessary. What reason does China have? Does China even have ships in the Baltic? I don't know. I'm not China. They could have a submarine theoretically there, I guess, but I doubt it. China has no reason to do it. Now, let's get to the United States. Why would the United States blow up Nord Stream, right? The United States has huge oil and natural gas companies. They've been very upset with Europe buying oil and natural gas from Russia because that gives Russia influence over Europe, and the United States is the master of Europe, right? The EU is a puppet that has its, and the United States has its hand up the EU. The United States is controlling the EU. So they would love to cut off Russia's biggest piece of leverage. Now, let me share my screen again. Give me 2 seconds. Share the screen. Okay. Now let's go here. This is from, actually, this one. This is from January 19th, 2021. Trump was still president, right? The Trump administration imposed sanctions on the Russian vessel Fortuna, which Gazprom, the Russian state-owned gas company, used to complete construction of Nord Stream 2. Okay, interesting. So you see that, and you think, the U.S. was sanctioning companies that were building the Nord Stream pipeline, right? You look right here, the Nord Stream 2 AG, the Swiss company in charge of building Russia's Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline, and its German chief executive officer. They were sanctioned, right? So you look at that and you go, the U.S. was sanctioning people building Nord Stream. The U.S. was saying, Germany, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to build this pipeline that would provide you with cheap and cheap natural gas in an efficient manner. You're not allowed to do that. We won't allow it. We're the United States, and we control you. You are our puppets. You're not allowed to do that. Germany did it anyways. They allowed the construction to go forward. Right? They allowed the construction to go forward. And then back in February, what does Joe Biden, the president of the United States, say? What does he say? I don't think I can play this video. I think it'll have the same problem as the other one. One moment. Yeah, it looks like you can't hear the video. I have to figure that out. But what is he saying? He says that if Russia invades Ukraine, if Russian troops, Russian tanks cross into the borders of Ukraine, then there will no longer be a Nord Stream 2. Those were his exact words back in February. There will no longer be a Nord Stream 2. That's a massive statement, because what is that? That is a threat against German infrastructure, European infrastructure. He's threatening to attack Europe. And a reporter followed up and said, something along the lines of, well, Mr. President, you just threatened to attack Europe. How are you going to achieve that? And he assures the reporter that it will be done, right? If Russia invades Ukraine, Nord Stream 2 will be destroyed. And now Russia has launched a special military operation, and they have gone into Ukraine. And now what happened? The pipelines are blown up. The pipelines blew up, and we just covered it. Russia has no reason to do it. It's their biggest piece of leverage over Europe. And China has no reason to do it. Okay, so those are two of the three countries that are capable of doing it, and we've just established why they have no reason to do it. Now, the third country has many reasons to do it, and the leader of that third country has even said, we will do this if this happens, right? And what happened? Russia has gone into Ukraine, and what happened? The United States did exactly what they said they would do. They blew up the gas pipelines. They blew up Nord Stream 1, and they blew up Nord Stream 2, and they have condemned Europe to death. Really, they really have condemned the EU to death. I don't think the EU survives this. I don't think that 800 million or however many people live in Europe. 500 million. I don't know. I don't think that many people are going to die. I do think that thousands will, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully not. But the United States has condemned Europe to this fate. Now, hopefully for Europe, hopefully climate change is real. Right, I believe climate change is real. Hopefully it is, and hopefully it gets hotter. If you're Europe, that's what you want. Hopefully climate change is really in full effect this way. If I'm a European, I'm praying, God, let climate change, let global warming be in full effect this winter, because if it's cold, people are going to die. People are going to die anyways because of this, right? They have condemned Europe to death. Why did they blow up the pipelines? You might say, well, they already got the EU to sanction Russia. They already got the EU to set a deadline in December for no longer buying Russian oil and gas. Why do they have to blow the pipelines up? Because they see the protest. They weren't covering them. I was covering them. You can go look at my Telegram. I've been covering the protest in Europe since day one, the protest against the sanctions, right? I've been covering them since day one. Now, mainstream media in the United States didn't touch them. As far as I know, mainstream media in Europe didn't touch them. They didn't touch these protests. But the United States, the State Department, the CIA, they saw these protests and they thought they're going to win. When they saw what happened in Italy, they saw Maloney win, and they thought the people are going to eventually win. The people are going to throw these governments out, and they're going to turn on Nordstream. The German protests, the protests in Germany, the protesters were literally going around chanting Nord Stream, Nord Stream, Nord Stream, Nord Stream. All right, so they saw what was going to happen. They saw that, okay, the people are going to rise up. They're going to put in some new form of government, and they're going to try to be friendly with Russia again. If Russia would allow that, they're going to try to be friendly with Russia, and they're going to try to buy Russian gas through Nord Stream. And they probably will. Russia probably would have. If new governments came about in Germany and France and Italy that were more friendly to Russia and didn't go through the sanctions and wasn't Russophobic and, saying that Russia should be defeated on the battlefield. If those governments came about, Russia would sell gas to them, I would assume. I'm not in Russian leadership, obviously. I can't say for sure, but I would assume they would. And the U.S. knew that, and they thought, okay, well, we have to destroy the capability of Europe to even buy this gas while we still can. We have to destroy it. So that's what they did. They blew up 2 pipelines. It's one of the biggest acts of terrorism ever, right? 9/11 was catastrophic, right? It took, 3 planes crashed on 9/11. They say 4, but we all see the footage from the Pentagon. That wasn't really a plane. 3 planes crashed on 9/11, and a cruise missile probably hit the Pentagon, okay? That's likely what happened. That was terrible. How many people died on 9/11? Like 18,000? I don't know for sure. That's horrible. I wish those people didn't die. How many people are going to die from this act of terrorism? We just talked about it, right? Tens of thousands, 100,000. How many people die because of this? I don't know. We'll have to see. We can come back in 6 months and say, okay, this many people died from that act of terrorism. But I guarantee you it'll be worse than 9/11, right? So is this the biggest act of terrorism in human history? Maybe. It depends on what you classify an act of terror as, right? But, if you're Europe, you were just attacked. The United States just attacked you. They just condemned tens of thousands of your people to death. And what are you doing? Nothing. You're sitting there being a bitch, right? That's all the Europe is doing. It's outrageous, right? If I was a European citizen, I can't imagine. I can't imagine what I'd be doing, right? It's outrageous to be attacked in that manner, so overtly attacked, and just you have nothing to do. But the United States is sitting there. Joe Biden just did it. The CIA, the State Department, we just attacked you. The U.S. Navy, we just attacked you. We have Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. We have naval bases and Air Force bases in England and France. We just attacked you. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? We're literally sitting in your country. What are you going to do about it? You going to kick us out? No, you're not. No, you're not, because we scared you. We scared you about Russia. We've lied to you for fucking 70 years saying that the Russians are coming for you. The Russians are coming for you. You need us. You need us to protect you. The Russians are going to come get you. Now, have the Russians ever shown any intentions of attacking Western Europe? No. Well, World War II. But outside of Nazi Germany, no. They've shown no intentions of that, right? They've shown the opposite intentions. They would like to sell natural gas to Europe. They would like to sell natural gas. They would like to sell oil. They would like to sell grain. They would like to sell other things. Russia wants to be a normal country, right? Obviously, Russia has its own motivations. Every country does, but Russia wants to be a normal country that's allowed to trade. That's allowed to trade with the rest of the world. That's what they want. Just like China, just like the United States. Well, not like the United States, just like China, it's like everyone. Now, the United States and London, what do they want to do? They want to control the trade. They've done it for 500 years, right? First, it was the English and the British, and now it's the United States and the British, most of the United States. They want to control the trade. They want to control the sea routes, right? Their Atlanticist. They want to control all the trade. So they won't let Russia be normal. And by not letting Russia be normal, and by isolating Russia, what have they created? They've created a system where Russia is quite hostile towards them, as they should be. You have Vladimir Putin saying, we will use all means necessary to defend ourselves against you. We view ourselves to be at war with you, the West, right? So it's just outrageous if you're a European. It's outrageous for everybody that's involved, really. But if you're a European citizen, how you're not in the streets as we speak, I don't understand. You were just attacked by the United States, and your government's trying to blame it on Russia? There's no evidence for that. How are they going to blame it on Russia? They're going to go, I saw somebody make the joke, right? I talked about 9/11. On 9/11, they claimed that they found a passport somehow a passport stayed intact. The plane crashed. There was fire, jet fuel burning everywhere. But somehow this passport was able to stay intact. Right? I saw somebody make the joke. So are they going to go and investigate Nordstream? Are they going to go out to the pipeline in the Baltic and find an intact Russian passport? Right? What evidence do you have? You're blaming it on Russia. What evidence do you have for that? I have a lot of evidence to the contrary. We just covered it. It took me 5 fucking minutes. I'm in Missouri. It took me 5 minutes to figure out Russia has no reason to do this. The United States has said they would do it. The United States literally said they would do this if Russia invaded Ukraine. And Russia has effectively invaded Ukraine. You could call it whatever you want. I typically call it a special military operation. You could call it a special military operation, a war, an invasion, whatever you want. Russia's gone into Ukraine militarily. And the United States said that if Russia went into Ukraine militarily, they would blow up Nord Stream 2. I guess they didn't say specifically, but Joe Biden said it would be gone. It would no longer exist. And he's done it, right? He's done it. We know exactly what happened. I see I have some comments here. Alina, thanks very much for the real fact. The U.S. murdered Europe, and it's very true. So-called Ukraine, which government is a terrorist government, and U.S. played a huge role in the raging war. Yep, 100%. Right? Ukraine, terrorist government. We know that. They literally have Nazism enshrined in their constitution. The constitution recognizes Stepan Bandera as the national hero of Ukraine. Just look up Stepan Bandera. Please go read about him. I've talked about him on this channel, who he is many times. Americans should get together to demand their government stop committing terrorism on civilian infrastructure. I agree, Sam. I agree 100%. Olena, again, and the U.S. played a huge role waging war on the territory of Ukraine against Russia. I can tell lots of the facts, but it's not enough space here. Yeah, exactly. Thanks very much. Yeah. Thank you. Ukraine is a terrorist government. We know that. The United States could be argued that we have a terrorist government. We're literally blowing up civilian infrastructure. Now, of course, somebody could come back and say, well, Russia has been bombing Ukrainian civilian infrastructure for the past several weeks, and it's expected that they're going to launch a massive attack against more Ukrainian infrastructure. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But guess what? Ukraine and Russia are at war. The United States and Germany are not at war. The United States and Europe are not at war. It's the opposite, right? We're supposed to be allies. We're supposed to be kumbaya, best friend, allies, old as time, right? Now, that's obviously is not true. If you look at history, that's a lie, right? What happened was after World War II, Europe was devastated. All of Europe was devastated, East and West. The Soviet Union got the East. The United States got the West. So the United States was able to create a false reality where Europe and the U.S. are best friends, and Europe does what the U.S. says, right? Europe is the U.S.'s bitch. It's prison. If we were in prison, that's what's happening, right? The U.S. is the big, strong, buff guy, and the EU is the new the new person in, and they're the big guy's bitch. That's what's happening, right? And that's what happened after World War II. And the U.S. has created this false reality where the U.S. and Europe are best friends, and we know that's a lie. Look at history. I mean, sure, there's some common things there, and we don't have to be enemies, but the U.S. created a false reality, as I point. The EU is a puppet that's controlled by the United States, and the people of Europe know that, right? I've been covering the protests. You can go see them on my Telegram. The people of Europe know this, and they're getting sick of it, and they're starting to rise up. And this winter is only going to fuel them, no pun intended, because the lack of fuel is going to fuel the European people to overthrow their governments, right? And, in the long run, that might be a good thing. But like I said, how many people are going to die? How many people are going to die because of this act of terrorism by the United States? At least 10, 20, 30. I don't know where the number will be. Hopefully it's as low as possible. We'll see in, like I said, 6 months. What is it? It's almost October. So October, November, December, January, February, March. We got 6 months of spring. Six and a half months of spring. And the Europeans are going to lose 40% of their energy. 40% of their energy. Now, what happens when the power goes out? It's not just that you can't heat your home. Sure, you can't heat your home with natural gas. That's not good. You can replace that. You can get a wood-burning stove. You can burn wood. Europeans have already started doing that. Okay, so you're burning wood to keep your home warm. Does that fix all the issues? No. What is happening now? Okay, the power's out of the grocery store. All that frozen food, what's going to happen to that? Garland Nixon. I'm sure if you're watching my channel, you're familiar with Garland Nixon. If you're not, go get familiar. But Garland Nixon has been saying this, right? What happens when the power goes out of grocery stores, right? That frozen food, it's not going to stay frozen for very long. Sure, if you don't open the freezers, it'll stay cold. I'm sure everybody that has a freezer has had their power go out. And if you leave the freezer door shut, it stays cold for a little bit. And it stay cold for a couple of days if you don't open it. Okay, so you can't open it. You can't actually eat the food, but it's there. It's frozen as long as you don't open the door. What about the meat? Right? Okay, so same with the meat. The meat will stay frozen for a little bit if you don't open the door. What about the meat that's not frozen already? What about the meat that's just out in refrigerated temperatures? Okay, those refrigerators go out. Now what? The meat's going to go bad if you don't eat it. Right, so now you have an issue where not only can you not heat your homes, not only is there no electricity in your homes, you can see my dog in the background, not only is there no electricity in the homes, no heat in the homes, but now your food is going bad. And all you can eat now are, essentially things that don't have to be climate controlled to stay good, right? So no meat, no frozen food. What does that mean? Grains, wheat, rice, right? Who's a massive exporter of wheat? Russia, right? Where could the EU get wheat from most efficiently and cheapest? Russia, right? But what have they done? They've made it to how they've literally severed ties with Russia. They've not only said, Russia, we're no longer going to buy things from you, but we are going to provide weapons to kill your people, not just your soldiers, right? We're not just going to provide weapons that will kill your soldiers on the battlefield. We're going to provide Ukraine with weapons that allows Ukraine to kill Russian civilians. We're going to provide them with weapons. Now, I guess you could say it was mostly the United States, but the EU is behind it. They were behind providing Ukraine with weapons that are capable of striking Belgorod and Kursk, right, in civilian regions of Russia. And now they want ATACMS, right? It's an acronym. Go look it up. ATACMS. It's a type of missile. Actually, I'll share my screen and show you. I'll share my screen and I will show you what ATACMS missiles are. HIMARS. I'm not 100% sure how to spell it. Here we go. HIMARS ATACMS. So I'm sure you've heard of the HIMARS, right? Here's the HIMARS. It's this missile system here, and this is the truck that carries it, right? Missile system, truck that carries it. And it's capable of firing missiles that go far. Now, these are ATACMS. The ATACMS could go much farther than the regular missiles that the HIMARS fires. And this is what Ukraine wants now. They're capable of a range of up to 190 miles. So that would allow Ukraine to strike deep into Russian territory, right? And what is Russia supposed to do at that point? If NATO provides Ukraine with ATACMS, we've just covered Ukraine is a terrorist government. That's literally a government that has Nazism enshrined in its constitution. Nazis are in leadership positions in government and in the military. So what happens when you provide those people with those long range weapons, right? They're going to try to hit Russia. Now, what is Russia supposed to do? Is Russia just supposed to attack the Ukrainians? Are they just supposed to continue, okay, Ukraine's shooting these missiles at us, attack them? Or are they going to go, Ukraine's shooting these missiles at us. We know they're getting them from NATO. We know for a fact because we have satellites, and Russia's a very advanced country, just like the United States. So Russia's going to go, we know that these weapons are coming through Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. What are they supposed to do? Are they just supposed to, try to counter those missiles with air defense systems and try to destroy them in Ukraine? Or do they strike the facilities at Ramstein that are transporting them? Right? Kinzhal, the Kinzhal hypersonic missile. There's no defense for it. There's no defense for hypersonic missiles. So what does Russia do? Are they just supposed to accept that the U.S. is going to funnel in these advanced weapon systems? We're not just talking about rifles and basic artillery and anti-tank missile. We're not talking about the Javelin anymore. We're talking about an advanced weapon system that is capable of striking deep into Russian territory. What is Russia supposed to do? I think that what Russia would do is they would fire the Kinzhal hypersonic missile at Ramstein Air Force Base. At the facility, they will know the exact facilities at Ramstein, the exact hangars, the exact runway, the exact runways, the exact personnel that are involved in the transport of these weapons, and they will hit them at Ramstein Air Force Base. Okay, with conventional warhead. It won't be a nuclear warhead on the missile. It'll be a conventional warhead, and they will destroy the facility and the personnel and the runways that are a part of transporting these weapons. But then what? What happens? Is the United States just going to let Russia hit Ramstein? Are they going to say, well, we were providing Ukraine with weapons, Russia rightfully didn't like that, and so they struck Ramstein. No, we know the United States isn't going to be rational. What's going to happen? Joe Biden is going to get woken up by whoever wakes him up, and they're going to stick him with the needle of whatever they inject him with to get him going. And they're going to say, we need you to go out there, and we need you to go declare war on Russia, right? That's what they'll do, right? That's what they'll do. We know Joe Biden wants to go to war. He's made it very clear. Actually, I don't know what Joe Biden wants. I don't know that Joe Biden knows what he wants because he's clearly not there anymore. But the Joe Biden that we see, he wants war. So my point is, what is Russia supposed to do here? Obviously, they're going to keep fighting the Ukrainians. But are they just supposed to keep allowing more and more advanced weapon systems to come into Ukraine? More and more mercenaries to come into Ukraine? And the United States will not do that, right? Imagine if Russia had a massive military base in Venezuela, and say the United States was at war with Mexico. Now, say Russia was providing Mexico with very, very advanced weapon systems, very advanced missile systems that allow the Mexicans to strike Dallas, Houston, Albuquerque, Los Angeles, right? What would the United States do? What would they do? Would they just keep fighting the Mexicans in Mexico? Would they try to counter those systems? And no, we know what the United States would do. They would attack that massive military base, that hypothetical massive military base that Russia has in Venezuela, right? And then who says that they would just use conventional weapons? And you know what? In this hypothetical situation that I've created, the United States would be in the right to do that, right? So, okay, we've just went over that hypothetical situation. Let's come back to reality now, where the United States has a massive military base, Ramstein Air Force Base, in Germany, and they're providing very advanced weapon systems to Ukraine that are capable of striking Russian cities. Is Russia justified? I believe so. I just covered why the United States would be justified. So I don't see why Russia would be justified. My point is the United States can't keep providing these weapons. They can't keep doing it. They are a party to the war. I don't know how NATO says they're not. Right, they boast about providing weapons all the time, but somehow they claim they're not party to the war. I'm just curious to the rationale that they use. Obviously, they're insane people, but what's their reasoning? What do they say? Well, yeah, we're providing weapons, but we're not a party to the conflict because what? Because we don't have U.S. troops on the ground? Well, you do, right? Look at these mercenaries there. I've seen countless videos of these mercenaries with American flag patches on their arm, with Polish patches or the Polish flag on their arm. German flag on their arm, fighting on the side of Ukraine. That to me makes you a party to the conflict, right? Providing weapons and mercenaries, you're a party to the conflict. I see I have a comment that's in Cyrillic. I can't read that, but thanks for commenting. Yeah, but the U.S. can't keep providing these weapon systems, or we're all going to die a 5 million degree death, right? And that might sound dramatic to some people that aren't very well informed, but that's where we're at right now, man. We're this close to World War III. We haven't been this close to World War III ever. I don't think. I think we're closer now than the Cuban Missile Crisis because you don't just have. It's not just between Russia, right? It's not just between Russia and the United States. It's primarily right now, but look at what the United States is doing in China. Did everybody forget about Pelosi's Taiwan visit 2 months ago? I haven't. China certainly has not forgotten about the visit, right? Nor should they have. Excuse me. But no, China hasn't forgotten about that. Excuse me. China hasn't forgotten about that visit, nor should they. And they're continuing to push China even more. They're continuing to poke China even more, right? They were poking the Russian bear, and now they're poking the Chinese dragon. I don't know. But, they're trying to start World War III, man. And they will be successful if we let them. So we can't let them, right? The European people hopefully will not let them. And we're already seeing that. I've been covering the protests. The German people, the French people, the Italians, right? The Italians just elected Meloni, who says that she would like to, try to get relations with Russia going again. So, we got to follow in their steps. We can't let them start World War III because they will. They will. In a way, they already have. Right, the Serbian president, Vučić, has made this case, right? You have NATO fighting Russia in a proxy conflict. You have NATO or Russia are at war, right? NATO and Russia are at war, right? The NATO's trying to go to war with China. They're trying to make China invade Taiwan, and Biden is out there promising that the United States will defend Taiwan's sovereignty against the evil Chinese communists, right? What happens? What happens? The second that China launches some form of invasion or its invasion operation, whatever the hell you want to call it, the moment that they launch that and the United States responds, they respond militarily to China's military act. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Well, according to the Pentagon itself and the simulations that they've run hundreds of, probably thousands of, what's going to happen? China's going to launch their operation. The United States is going to respond and try to defend Taiwan, and China is going to sink every U.S. ship that's in the vicinity. This isn't just me. This isn't just my speculation. This is the Pentagon. This is what the Pentagon says will happen. They will sink every U.S. ship there, and then what? You just lost an entire fleet. What are you going to do now, United States? You just lost an entire fleet, probably like 15,000 men on all those ships, on all the ships combined. What are you going to do now? You going to back off? Are you going to say, we lost? We tried to defend Taiwan. China sunk all of our ships in the region. We lost. No, they're not going to do that. What are they going to do? They're going to respond. How will they respond? The W-762 low-yield nuclear warhead. And then everybody dies. Right? If you hear my dog in the background, that's what those noises are. That's how that will go. Right? Taiwan is a part of China. Right? Taiwan is a part of China. The United States government agrees with me. You can go look it up. The United States government has agreed that Taiwan is a part of China since Nixon. Right? So there we have two options pretty much. Either China is a part of Taiwan, or we try to pull Taiwan away from China and we go to war with China and everybody dies. Those are our two options. I certainly think one of those is much better than the other, right? Let Taiwan be a part of China. Who cares? Why? Because they make semiconductors in Taiwan. You need Taiwan to make your semiconductors for your iPhones and your Samsungs. Why can't you just buy it from China? Oh, because you might have to pay a fair price. You might have to trade in a fair manner, right? Oh, no. I thought the West is all about that, right? Free trade, rules-based order, right? Isn't the West all about that? No, they're not, right? They're about their rules. They're about, you do, the rest of the world does what we say, and we do whatever the fuck we want because we're British or we're American or we're French. We get to do whatever we want. And, the Chinese and the Russians and the Indians, they just have to deal with it. They can benefit here and there, but we get the lion's share of it. No. The world's sick of that. I covered it at the beginning of the stream. The world's not going for it, right? India, China, Pakistan, Brazil, BRICS, Saudi Arabia even. Right? Saudi Arabia, puppet state of the United States, they're not going for it. They're not going for it. So the world's not going for it anymore. And either the United States and London and these insane people either have to come to terms that, okay, we can't do this or we're all going to die, or we're all going to die. Right? Those are the options, really. Now we have to make them come to terms somehow. See, we have some comments here. The politics of U.S. cannot continue forever like this. Just remember of the long list, the one when U.S. bombed Serbia in 1999. In fact, slowly the world is turning away from the U.S. politics regards China. It's going to use its power soon, if you know what I mean. Yeah, 100%, right? I'm fully anticipating a Chinese military act against Taiwan in the coming months, right? So is every analyst that's intelligent. And it all depends on the outcome of that military operation. It all depends on what the United States does. Does the United States, go back on its commitment to China, that Taiwan is a part of China, something that they've agreed with since Richard Nixon was president? Do they go back on that and say, no, Taiwan's separate. We're going to join this conflict. We're going to go to war with China. And then I covered it, right? The Pentagon themselves says that if that happens, China sinks the entire U.S. fleet. And then what, right? Then they're forced to respond. with nuclear weapons or admit surrender or admit defeat. And they're not going to do that. So the outcome of China's probably coming operation in Taiwan depends on what the U.S. does in response. And China knows this, and China doesn't want to go to nuclear war. So I'm sure that the way China handles it will be measured, right? They'll try to prevent the United States from starting nuclear annihilation. But I don't know. I don't feel confident that we'll avoid nuclear annihilation with Joe Biden in office. You could say that Trump wasn't going to lead us away from nuclear annihilation either. I disagree. Right? Trump, on every case, showed that he was more diplomatic than Joe Biden and the neocons, right? He sat down with Kim Jong-un. He shook Kim Jong-un's hand. He stepped into North Korea, right? Kim Jong-un shook his hand over the DMZ. And then Kim Jong-un said, please, President of the United States, Donald Trump, please step into North Korea, right? And that was diplomatic. And now you have Kamala Harris going to the DMZ and awkwardly looking through binoculars. How weird is that? It's like you're a peeping Tom, right? I'm going to go to South Korea and I'm going to awkwardly look in to North Korea with binoculars. How awkward is that, right? Just pick up the fucking phone and say, hey, North Korea, this is Kamala Harris. You know who I am. Can I come have a diplomatic visit? Right? And I don't know what the North Koreans would say. They said yes to Trump. They'd probably say yes to Kamala. Trump and the North Koreans, of course, it didn't work out. Right? They had two meetings. The first meeting, and then a little later they had that summit. I believe the summit was in Vietnam, and if you remember, they left early. Right? The North Koreans left, and Trump left, and they said, we weren't. Nothing was coming of it. So yeah, Trump wasn't going to do anything. Nothing was ever going to actually come of those meetings. Well, that's not true. De-escalation was going to come, but I obviously nothing serious, nothing signed was ever going to come of those. But it was a step in the right direction, and you have Biden going back on that step. You have Biden and Kamala awkwardly looking through her binoculars, peeping into North Korea. What are you doing? What are you doing? That's weird. You're being weird. Stop that. I don't know. I don't know if we make it through Biden. I don't know how we do. What's the path? How do we push him? We can't, right? They created a layer. They've created a layer between themselves and us where we can't really push them, right? We're supposed to have a representative government in the United States, and clearly we do not. That's not news to any of you. But yeah, man, I don't know how we're going to make it through Joe Biden. Hopefully we do. Hopefully we make it to the 2024 election, and whoever the hell that is, a Joe Biden or, Kamala Harris wins, whether that's probably Donald Trump again or Ron DeSantis. I don't know. Obviously, Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, me and them don't agree politically on a whole lot, on a foundational level, right? We disagree on how economies should be structured on a foundational level. So, but I think we do agree that we would like to, not be at war with the world, right? Donald Trump pulled out of nuclear treaties with Russia, but he wasn't starting a war with Russia like Joe Biden and Barack Obama was. Don't forget about that, right? If we didn't have 2-term limits in the United States, Barack Obama probably would have won another election, and he would have done this, right? The plan was Hillary Clinton wins in 2016, and they continue their project in Ukraine. This conflict that's happening in Ukraine right now would have happened sooner if Hillary Clinton won. And I'm convinced of that. So yeah, obviously Donald Trump and the Republicans are not the best people, and they're not even very good people, but they're certainly better than Joe Biden, and that's being shown in the Democrats. That's being shown at every turn. If you disagree with me, tell me why. And please tell me why you feel the Democrats is better than the Republicans, right? The Republicans at least will communicate with North Korea. They'll communicate with China. They'll trade with China. They'll trade with Russia. The Democrats won't do that. The Democrats will start wars. That's what they're doing, right? Barack Obama started like fucking 5 wars. Took us from 2 to 7. When Barack Obama came into office, we were at war in Iraq and we were at war in Afghanistan. When Barack Obama left office, we were still at war in Afghanistan. We were still at war in Iraq. but we were also, we had destroyed Libya. We were destroying Syria, and we just continued. There's the anti-piracy operation in the Indian Ocean. That's a war. I'm forgetting 2 others. I apologize. But Barack Obama took us from 2 wars to 7. And how many wars did Donald Trump take us into? He tried to take us to war with Iran. I'll give you that. He probably did everything he could, other than outright declaring war on Iran, killing Soleimani. But yeah, he wasn't about to start World War III. I never felt that way when Donald Trump was president. I felt that way for the past 3 or 4 months with Joe Biden, though. And I think any Americans that are educated and are informed would agree with me. Now, a lot of Americans aren't informed, and I don't blame them. How can you be? There's purposely so much bullshit out there to keep you from being informed. But yeah, I think I'm going to wrap up here. I'll end on, we got to avoid World War III, a nuclear war. We got to avoid that. At the very least, that has to be avoided. So yeah, don't fall for the propaganda. The dive in with Rayton. I love your opinion. Thank you. The dive in with Rayton. Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm going to end it here. Please like and subscribe, obviously, right? All the stuff that YouTubers ask, like, subscribe, smash the like button, hit the notifications bell, right? All the things they say. Follow me on Telegram, right? I didn't put it in the description of the video. I apologize for that. But follow me on Telegram, Bradley Wasser. Follow me on Twitter at Anti-Imperial STL. And subscribe to me here. I'm also going to start streaming to Rumble as well. You can go subscribe to me there. I haven't started yet. I have to get the premium version of StreamYard, which allows me to stream to multiple locations. But I will stream to Rumble as well, maybe Rockfed as well. We'll see what happens. But yeah, please like, subscribe. And I'm going to start streaming much more consistently now that I've moved into my new place. And I'll get something set up in the back, an American flag and whatnot, so it's not so boring. But yeah, like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. I enjoy doing this, just getting on, talking with you guys. And obviously, there's a lot to talk about. Every day, there's more and more to talk about. But yeah, I'll stay on for another minute or so. If anyone in the comments wants me to talk about anything before I get off, please comment, and I will. But yeah, we got to avoid World War III. I guess that's my message of this stream. We have to avoid World War III because World War III will result in billions of people dying. It's that simple. So if that's it, if nobody has anything they want me to address before I get off, then I guess I'll go ahead and hop off. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, follow me on Telegram. That's the best place. Bradley Wasser. All right. Goodbye. Good night.